College Football National Championships in NCAA Division I FBS. A national championship in the highest level of college football in the United States, currently the NCAA Division I Football Bowl Subdivision FBS, is a designation awarded annually by various organizations to their selection of the best college football team. Division I FBS football is the only National Collegiate Athletic Association NCAA sport for which the NCAA does not sanction a yearly championship event. As such, it is sometimes unofficially referred to as a mythical national championship annual selection of best U.S. team due to the lack of an official NCAA title. Determining the nation's top college football team has often engendered controversy. A championship team is independently declared by multiple individuals and organizations, often referred to as selectors. These choices are not always unanimous. In 1969, even President of the United States Richard Nixon made a selection by announcing, ahead of the season-ending game of the century between No. 1 Texas and No. 2 Arkansas, that the winner would receive a presidential plaque commemorating them as national champions. Texas went on to win, while the NCAA has never officially endorsed a championship team, it has documented the choices of some selectors in its official NCAA Football Bowl Subdivision Records publication. In addition, various analysts have independently published their own choices for each season. These opinions can often diverge with others as well as individual schools' claims to national titles, which may or may not correlate to the selections published elsewhere. Currently, two of the most widely recognized national champion selectors are the Associated Press AP, which conducts a poll of sports writers, and the Coaches Poll, a survey of active members of the American Football Coaches Association AFCA since 1992. Various consortia of major bowl games have aimed to invite the top two teams at the end of the regular season as determined by internal rankings or aggregates of the major polls and other statistics to compete in what is intended to be the de facto national championship game. The current iteration of this practice, the College Football Playoff, selects 4 teams to participate in national semifinals hosted by 2 of 6 partner bowl games, with their winners advancing to the College Football Playoff National Championship. History. The Sun was among the first to publish a year-end college football ranking. In Earth concept of a national championship in college football dates to the early years of the sport in the late 19th century, and the earliest contemporaneous polls can be traced to Caspar Whitney, Charles Patterson, and the Sun in 1901. Therefore, the concept of polls and national champions predated mathematical ranking systems, but it was Frank Dickinson's math system that was one of the first to be widely popularized. His system named Stanford the national champion of 1926, prior to their tie with Alabama in the Rose Bowl. A curious, Newt Rockne, then coach of Notre Dame, had Dickinson backdate 2 seasons, which produced Notre Dame as the 1924 national champion, and Dartmouth. A number of other mathematical systems were born in the ERS and ERS and were the only organized methods selecting national champions until the Associated Press began polling sports writers in 1936 to obtain rankings. Alan J. Gould, the creator of the AP poll, named Minnesota, Princeton, and SMU co-champions in 1935 and polled writers the following year, which resulted in a national championship for Minnesota. The AP's main competition, United Press, created the first coaches poll in 1950. For that year and the next 3, the AP and UP agreed on the national champion. The first split championship occurred in 1954, when the writers selected Ohio State and the coaches chose UCLA. The 2 polls also disagreed in 1957, 1965, 1970, 1973, 1974, 1978, 1990, 1991, 1997, and Earthaw. Some of the math systems selected champions after the bowl games. Both of the major polls released their rankings after the end of the regular season until the AP polled writers after the bowls in 1965, resulting in what was perceived at the time as a better championship selection, Alabama than UP's Michigan State. After 1965, the AP again voted before the bowls for 2 years, before permanently returning to a post-bowl vote in 1968. The coaches did not conduct a vote after the bowls until 1974, in the wake of awarding their 1973 championship to Alabama, who lost to the AP champion, undefeated Notre Dame, in the Sugar Bowl. The AP and coaches polls remain the major rankings to this day from the ERS to the advent of the college football playoff. Each top team played a single postseason bowl game per season. The process of selecting the national champion during this period was complicated by the fact that the champions of major conferences were tied to specific bowls. For example, the Big 8 champion was tied to the Orange Bowl, and the top two teams in the nation often played in different bowls. A few bowls over the years featured a versus matchup. One example was the 1987 Fiesta Bowl, played January 2 following the 1986 season. Two attempts to annually crown a champion on the field were the Bowl Coalition and Bowl Alliance. However, their effort to host a national championship was hampered by the lack of participation of the Pac-10 and Big Ten champions, who had a contractual obligation to play in the Rose Bowl. Of the Bowl Championship Series, famous for its use of math, was the successor of the Coalition and Alliance. Besides the many adjustments it underwent during its tenure, including a large overhaul following the 2004 season that included the replacement of the AP poll with the Harris poll, the BCS remained a mixture of math systems and human polls since its inception in 1998, with the goal of matching the best two teams in the nation in a national championship bowl game which rotated yearly between the Sugar, Fiesta, Rose, and Orange Bowls from 1998 to 2005, and later a standalone game titled the BCS National Championship Game 2006 to 2013. The winner of the BCS Championship game was awarded the national championship of the coaches poll, thus winning the AFCA National Championship trophy. The BCS winner also received the MacArthur Bowl from the National Football Foundation. Neither the AP poll nor other current selectors had contractual obligations to select the BCS champion as their national champion. The BCS resulted in a number of controversies, most notably after the 2003 season, when the BCS championship game did not include eventual AP champion USC, the only time the two championships have diverged since the advent of the BCS. After many seasons of controversy, the BCS was replaced with the College Football Playoff, a +1 system aimed at reducing the controversy involved, in which teams get to play in a championship game through use of a tournament. Whole era at present. Map of U.S. college football champions. 1936 national championship selectors came to be dominated by two competing news agencies. In the later half of the 20th century, the Associated Press (AP) and United Press International (UPI). These wire services began ranking college football teams in weekly polls, which were then promptly published in the sports sections of each agency's subscribing newspapers across the country. The team ranking No. 1 in each agency's final poll of the season was awarded that agency's national championship. And national championships are often popularly considered to be consensus when both of these polls are in agreement with their national championship selections, although other selectors exist and do make alternative selections. Main article. AP policy. Also, AP Trifith AP College Football Poll has a long history. The news media began running their own polls of sports writers to determine who was, by popular opinion, the best football team in the country at the end of the season. One of the earliest such polls was the AP College Football Poll, first run in 1934, compiled and organized by Charles Woodruff, former SEC Assistant Director of Media Relations, but not recognized in the official NCAA Football Bowl subdivision records, and then continuously from 1936, the first major nationwide poll for ranking college football teams. The Associated Press is probably the most well-known and widely circulated among all of history's polls, due to the long-standing historical ties between individual college football conferences and high-paying bowl games like the Rose Bowl and Orange Bowl. The NCAA has never held a tournament or championship game to determine the champion of what is now the highest division. NCAA Division I Football Bowl Subdivision. The Division I Football Championship Subdivision and lower divisions do hold championship tournaments. As a result, the public and the media began to take the leading vote-getter in the final AP poll as the national champion for that season of national championship trophy. In the AP poll's early years, The final poll of sports writers was taken prior to any bowl games and sometimes even prior to the top team's final games of the regular season. In 1938, the poll was extended for 1 week after Notre Dame, No. 1 in the scheduled final poll, subsequently lost to rival us following the 1947 season. The AP held a special post-bowl poll with only 2 teams on the ballot, Notre Dame and Michigan, but stated that the result would not supersede that of the final poll conducted following the end of the regular season. The rivals, both unbeaten and untied, had been ranked No. 1 and No. 2 respectively in the final poll. January voters were impressed by Michigan's win over common opponent USC in the Rose Bowl and elevated the Wolverines above the Irish in the special post-bowl poll. In 1965, the AP decided to delay the season's final poll until after New Year's Day, citing the proliferation of bowl games and the involvement of 8 of the poll's current top 10 teams in postseason play. In the next season, 1966, neither of the top 2 teams were attending bowl games, so no post-bowl poll was taken, even after 2-time defending AP national champion No. 3 Alabama won the Sugar Bowl and finished the season unbeaten and untied. In 1967, the final poll crowning USC national champion was taken before No. 2 Tennessee or No. 3 Oklahoma had even played their final games of the regular season, and well before those 2 teams met in the Orange Bowl in 1968, the final poll was again delayed until after the bowl games so that No. 1 Ohio State could meet No. 2 USC in a dream match in the Rose Bowl. Every subsequent season's final AP poll would be released after the bowl games going forward. The UKI did not follow suit with the coaches' poll until the 1974 season. Until the 1968 NCAA University Division football season, the final AP poll of the season was released following the end of the regular season, with the exception of the 1965 season. In 1964, Alabama was named the national champion in the final AP poll following the completion of the regular season, but lost in the Orange Bowl to Texas, leaving Arkansas as the only undefeated, untied team after the Razorbacks defeated Nebraska in the Cotton Bowl Classic. In 1965, the AP's decision to wait to crown its champion paid off, as top-ranked Michigan State lost to UCLA in the Rose Bowl, number 2 Arkansas lost to LSU in the Cotton Bowl Classic, and 4th-ranked Alabama defeated 3rd-ranked Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, vaulting the Crimson Tide to the top of the AP's final poll. Michigan State was named national champion in the final United Press International Poll of Coaches, which did not conduct a post-bowl poll. AP poll was used as a component of the Bowl Championship Series computer ranking formula starting in 1998. But without any formal agreement in place like the contract made between the BCS and the coaches' poll. For the 2003 season, the AP poll caused a split national title and BCS controversy when it awarded its national championship to No. 1 USC instead of BCS champion LSU. In December 2004, the AP opted out of the BCS formula, requesting that the BCS discontinue its unauthorized use of the AP poll as a component of BCS rankings, in response to 3 AP voters from Texas elevating Texas above California into the Rose Bowl in the last regular season. AP poll main article, Coaches Poll. See also, the Coaches Trophy, AFC National Championship Trophy. News agency United Press. UP, the main competitor to the Associated Press, began conducting its own college football ratings during the 1950 season. The wire service came to be known as United Press International UPI following a merger with International News Service. In Earth Weekly ranking was a joint polling effort between the news agency and the American Football Coaches Association AFCA, with UPI sports writers gathering and tabulating the coaches' votes and publishing the results in newspapers across the nation. UPI rankings were originally conducted by polling 35 of the nation's college football coaches. The coaches were chosen to represent every major football conference, with 5 coaches from each of 7 regions. In an apparent effort to combat the perceived East Coast bias of the rival AP poll's constituent sports writers, their votes will provide the only football rating based on the opinion of the men who know the sport best. The nature of the board, giving each section of the country equal representation, avoids the sectional bias and ballot box stuffing for which other football polls have been criticized. United Press football ratings announcement. September. Each season's final coaches poll was initially published following the regular season and did not take bowl game results into account. The UPUPI national champion lost its bowl game 8 times between 1950 and 1973. Since the 1974 season, the poll has awarded its national championship following the postseason bowls. That same year, the AFCA voted to thereafter not rank any team currently under NCAA or conference-sanctioned probation following the decline of UPI in the ERS. The AFCA ended their 42-year relationship with the wire service in 1991. The coaches poll continued with new sponsorship and distribution partners as the USA Today poll, USA Today's poll, USA Today poll, and USA Today and Week poll present the Bowl Championship Series included the coaches poll as a major factor in its ranking formula. In return, voting AFCA members were contractually obligated to award their coaches poll national championship selections to the winner of the BCS national championship game, lacking its own dedicated trophy. The BCS champion was awarded the coach's trophy on the field immediately following the game. Following table contains the national championships that have been recognized by the final AP or coaches poll. Originally, both the AP and coaches poll champions were crowned after the regular season, but since 1968 and 1974 respectively, both polls crowned their champions after the bowl games are completed with the exception of the 1965 season. The BCS champion was automatically awarded the coaches poll championship of the current Football Bowl Subdivision FBS, formerly Division I schools. Only 30 have won at least a share of a national title by the AP or coaches poll. Of these 30 teams, only 20 teams have won multiple titles. Of the 20 teams, only 7 have won 5 or more national titles: Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, USC, Miami FL, Nebraska, and Ohio State. The years listed in the table below indicate a national championship selection by the AP or coaches poll. The selections are noted with AP or coaches when a national champion selection differed between the two polls for the particular season, which has occurred in 12 different seasons including 2004. For which the coaches' selection was rescinded since the polls first came to coexist in USC's 2004 BCS National Championship was vacated by the BCS, and the AFCA Coaches Trophy returned retroactively awarded in 2016 by FCA Blue Ribbon Panel. Oklahoma State was the only school to apply for the award. Of AP poll and coaches poll have picked different final national poll leaders at the end of 11 different seasons since their first concurrent polls in 1950. This situation is referred to as a split national championship. National championship games. College football fans and administrators have long sought to match the no 1 versus no 2 teams in an end-of-season national championship game to determine an undisputed national champion on the gridiron. Throughout most of the 20th century, bowl game conference tie-ins made it impossible to automatically schedule the 2 top teams for a single postseason game for all luck and fortuitous scheduling. A national championship game was occasionally able to settle the matter on the field. Main article: Bowl Coalition. Following back-to-back years of split AP and coaches poll national champions in 1990 between Colorado AP and Georgia Tech coaches, and 1991 between Miami FLAP and Washington coaches, the Bowl Coalition was formed in 1992 to increase the probability of a no 1 versus no 2 national championship game matchup in one of the coalition's participating bowls. The coalition's rules retained traditional bowl game conference tie-ins but provided some flexibility for scheduling a no 1 versus no 2 matchup between 2 teams selected from among the champions of the ACC, Big East, Big 8, SEC, and SWC conferences, or independent. Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, Orange Bowl, or Sugar Bowl of Big Ten and Pac-10 conferences were notably not members of the Bowl Coalition, with their champions retaining their traditional and contractual matchup in the Rose Bowl. Likewise, mid-major teams had no route to the Bowl Coalition National Championship game. Main article: Bowl Alliance. In 1995, the Bowl Alliance replaced the Bowl Coalition. Going further than the coalition, the Alliance guaranteed a postseason matchup of the no 1 and no 2 ranked teams of its same 5 conference champions plus Notre Dame. Beginning in 1996, the Big 12 champion joined the Alliance in place of the champions of the disbanded Big 8 and Southwest Conference. Unlike the coalition, the Alliance eliminated traditional conference tie-ins to its associated bowls. The Bowl Alliance National Championship game would be rotated amongst the Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and Orange Bowl, with the Cotton Bowl dropped from the slate. The Bowl Alliance also awarded its own trophy to the winner of its national championship game. The Rose Bowl remained independent of the Alliance, leaving open the possibility of a national title going to the Big Ten or Pac-10 Rose Bowl champion rather than the Alliance's champion. This occurred in 1997 when No. 1 Michigan won the Rose Bowl and retained their top ranking in the AP poll. The Bowl Alliance National Championship game winner Nebraska split the championship when they passed Michigan in the final coaches poll, a result denied by the coaches poll to Penn State 3 years earlier in the same situation. Main article, Bowl Championship Series. See also, BCS National Championship Gamut Bowl Championship Series. BCS, starting in 1998, finally succeeded in bringing the Big Ten and Pac-10 conferences together with the former coalition and alliance members for a combined national championship game. Following the regular season, the BCS paired its No. 1 and No. 2 ranked teams to play for the title in the BCS National Championship game. This designation initially rotated in order between 4 BCS bowls: the Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, and Rose Bowl. For the 2006 season onward, the BCS National Championship game became its own separate contest, played 1 week later at the site of the bowl in the same rotation. BCS formula varied over the years, with the final version relying on a combination of the coaches and Harris polls and an average of various computer rankings to determine relative team rankings. Winners of the BCS National Championship game were crowned the coaches poll national champions and were awarded the coaches trophy on the field following the game. They were also awarded the MacArthur Bowl by the National Football Foundation. USC's victory in the 2005 Orange Bowl and corresponding BCS National Championship was vacated by the USC. Main article, College Football Playoff. See also, College Football Playoff National Championship. The College Football Playoff CFP was designed as a replacement for the BCS. While the NCAA still does not officially sanction the event, organizers sought to bring a playoff system similar to all other levels of NCAA football to the Football Bowl subdivision. The College Football Playoff relies on a 13-member selection committee to choose the top 4 teams to play in a 2-round single-elimination playoff bracket. The winner of the final game is awarded the College Football Playoff National Championship trophy. Other selectors. In addition to the NCAA designated major selectors listed above, various other people and organizations have selected national champions in college football. Selections from such notable selectors are listed below. Teams in the following table were selected by notable national championship selectors not listed as a major selector in the NCAA Football Bowl Subdivision Records Book. In the interest of brevity, this table contains only teams that were not also selected by any NCAA designated major selector for the given year. Teams listed in italics indicate retroactively applied championships.